Let's get started with our first news. Dana White and the UFC accused of scamming fans. It looks like the UFC and Dana White are getting called out for allegedly scamming casual fans during the main event at UFC 313 between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. UFC displayed the unofficial, keyword unofficial, stats near the end of round 5. As they displayed these stats on screen, it showed Pereira landing 76 significant strikes to Magomed's 64th, mixed with the commentators talking about how they believed Alex Pereira won the fight. That led many casual fans to believe he was going to win. Then a UFC commentator allegedly read out a betting ad encouraging fans to place bets on the fight, saying that Alex Pereira was the underdog. They even went as far as allegedly telling the live viewership that you could still bet even after the fight finished, all the way till the official decision was read out. Many people also noted that the scorecard took longer than usual to be read out. With all this taken into account, many people are furious at the UFC for essentially scamming the casual fan base into thinking they could make money by betting on Pereira, only for the fight to end differently. One user on TikTok called out this shady tactic in a viral video. He pointed out something very disturbing that happened during the UFC 313 main event. Towards the end of round 5 with 21 seconds left, the UFC displayed round by round strike numbers. These were some of the most misleading statistics ever seen. At the end of the fight, Jon and Nick was announcing the odds. They showed plus 100 for Alex Pereira and made sure everybody knew you could still bet on the fight as long as the decision hadn't been read. The UFC in Vegas knew that a bunch of casual fans were watching Pereira fight this 5-round war. They showed completely false statistics, making it look like Pereira was outstriking Magomed in 4 of 5 rounds, then showed him as a plus 100 underdog. Jon and Nick even verbally highlighted it, making sure fans knew they could still place a wager before the decision was announced. And then, the decision was unanimous, with one judge scoring it 49-46. But why did it take so long to read out? Knowing they put the wrong stats on the screen, knowing they showed false information to viewers, and knowing that they told people they could bet on the fight right after. It all looks very suspicious. Never before has the UFC's commentary team emphasized betting this much right after a fight ended. And if they have, they never did it to the extreme that they did in this fight, especially after showing completely false stats at the very end. When the real strike numbers came out, it was a total disaster. The fake numbers displayed at the end of round 5 claimed that Magomed only landed 64 significant strikes, but in reality, he had landed 94. That's a massive difference. 30 significant strikes. Meanwhile, Pereira's actual strikes were only 5, apart from the fake ones they initially showed. So do you think the UFC scammed fans? They made it seem like Pereira was winning through false commentary and fake strike stats. Then they read out a betting ad saying he was still the underdog. And on top of that, they told the fans they could still bet on the fight after it ended. Here's what the MMA community had to say. The unofficial stats are always inaccurate. I know that, but why did it take so long to read a unanimous decision after they conveniently showed that Alex was plus money? When it's a Pereira fight, you know casual fans are watching and they might not know these stats are inaccurate. If you watch the stat counter, they did the same thing for Strickland versus Adesanya. They had Izzy leading on strikes in the mid-fight counter. I agree, they tried to milk Pereira hard with the betting line, but you should already know those strike stats are unofficial until after the fight. I've seen 30 additional strikes added to a fighter's count after the fight. Was wondering why they took so long to get Bruce Buffer in there and read the scorecards. I remember watching this live and thinking, what the hell? They never do this. Super sus. I thought the same thing. First time I ever heard them announce that you can still place a wager before the decision. Luckily, I had big money on Ankalaev. Once again, we're not saying the UFC did anything illegal, but a lot of people in the community are outraged. A lot of new UFC fans feel like the promotion took advantage of their lack of knowledge about scoring. What do you think about this situation? Let us know in the comments. Moving on to another big news. Jon Jones suffers horrible injury in sparring. Sparring sessions are always intense, but one recent session with his main sparring partner, Russian boxer Leon Grev, took a wild turn as they sparred ahead of what is expected to be the biggest fight of the year, a showdown with interim champ Tom Aspinall, scheduled for summer 2025. The two accidentally clashed heads. At first, Grev didn't think much of it, but then he saw blood pouring from Jones's forehead. The The sight of it left him and everyone at the gym stunned. Things escalated when people rushed into the cage, and Greaves started worrying they were going to turn on him. Luckily, after a tense moment, things calmed down and the session continued. While the fight with Aspinall has yet to be officially announced, it's clear that the UFC is targeting a summer showdown. However, it's unclear how this incident could affect Jones's plans. This injury might delay the potential fight and push it back to 2026, but only time will reveal the full impact. So me and Jon were sparring the other day, and you know, Americans usually don't wear headgear while sparring, but I always do. So I put mine on like usual and we started exchanging punches. His style is super unpredictable, like he's always doing random stuff. At one point, we clashed heads. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I looked closely, and damn, he was bleeding so heavily, like I've never seen anything like it. It was a lot. Then, all of a sudden, people started rushing into the cage, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm screwed. They're going to beat me up. But then things